the Pythagorean theorem. Guys, it's something you'll use over and over and over and over and over again. It works for right triangles. Only. We've already talked about how you label a right triangle, have we not? What do you have? How do you, what's the significance of the sides? You have what? Okay, that's what makes it a right triangle. Very good. What is the hard one to find, the most important one to find? The hypotenuse. Remember that this right angle is pointing to a side. That's the hypotenuse, if this was the end of an arrow, right? So over here is a leg, and over here is a leg. You okay, Bill? Okay. The Pythagorean theorem basically says the square of the hypotenuse will always equal the sum of the squares of the legs. There's a whole class based on this basic right triangle. It's called trigonometry, and a lot of it's, starts with the Pythagorean theorem. Those of you that have seen this, how you see this is probably how you used to see this. Is they call one leg A, and it doesn't matter which leg you call A, just as long as it's an A. Or I'm sorry, just as long as it's a leg. It doesn't matter. This one could be B, this one could be A, or you call the other one B. That's just how they label it. The hypotenuse, though, is always labeled with C. And the Pythagorean theorem based on this, a squared plus b squared will equal c squared. The sides will always have this relationship right here. Of course, everyone believes that that's how they built the pyramids. They didn't write it out in this form, but they understood the relationships of the sides of a right triangle. Now, what's going to mess some people is how we solve this. Okay, what we're going to have in this section is where we'll give you basically two of these three and ask you to solve for the one that's left. What I want everyone to remember here, that's Pythagorean's theorem. Does everybody know what this means? It means what number could I what? I multiply, nope, times itself. In other words, square, and get x as the answer. In my intermediate algebra class, we're delving into this. You should have done this in algebra. But a lot of people get confused by what that sign actually means. It's an operation. It's asking you a question. Just as when you put 2 times 3, they're asking you, how many do you have if you have 2 sets of? Right. Isn't that what 2 times 3 is asking you? How many do you have if you have 2 sets of 3? You have what? 6. This is asking you, what number could I square and get that as an answer? As a rule, most of the time you guys will not be able to answer that question exactly. Because a lot more numbers than not don't come out even. And they get estimated on your calculator when you come out with a decimal. However, you can answer this question. Does anybody know what the answer to that question is? What number could I square and get 9 as an answer? 3. However, put that into your calculator. Can anybody tell me what you get? No, do it. I want you to do it. What'd you get, D? You gotta turn it, yeah, you got it sideways, don't you? By the way, those of you using your phones, if you turn it sideways, the square root will pop up. I think if it's up and down, you won't see the square root.
Is it 0?
No. I think you press that square root button first, then 5, and then equals.
I just came out 5. Can you do it?
Square root of 5. You gotta press the square root first.
I just came out as the same thing.
Oh, it simplified it for you.
I was going to avoid.
I'm gonna press. No, you gotta press the number first. On an iPhone. 2.236067797749979. Here you go. I can use mine the rest of the way.
Which one is it?
The one with the 2 on it. Yeah. The other one's the cube root.
What is it?
And guess what? That's was this a 2? Well, whether it was 2 or 7 doesn't really matter. That's estimated, okay? This is approximate. I want you to put this into your calculator and tell me what you get. What do you guys think the answer to this is? Can you answer that question? Can you guys answer this question? How many of you wanted to say 3? It's okay. But what number squared is 3? Right. It has nothing to do with even or odd, does it? And what'd you get, what'd you say you got, D?
2.44948976.2783178.
Okay, we'll start there. All kidding aside, as you can see, this is kind of a weird deal. It's asking what number could you square and get that as an answer. Only your perfect squares, like 3 times 3, 4 times 4, numbers like 16, 25, 36 are going to come out even. Okay? One thing to remember, though, does anybody know what the answer to this is? You can't even see it. What number could I square and get x squared as the answer? It'd be x. Yes, that number which is represented by x. Very good. Or if I had square root of b squared, what do you think would be the answer there? Very good. Or if I had square root of a squared, what do you think the answer would be? You guys are awesome. Square root of c squared, what would be the answer there? C. All of that is leading up to our worksheet where we're going to solve some of these up here, and we're going to, at the end, when we have like c squared equal to something, you know what we're going to do to solve it? We're going to take the square root of both sides to make that c squared into a c. Okay? So let's get that worksheet out. If we run out of time, we'll finish the worksheet tomorrow. If you think you'll lose it by the time tomorrow gets here, please put it in the basket, grab it when you come back in. How much time do we have left?
Like 10 minutes.
Huh? We have 10 minutes left? Okay, so we're doing good then. Wonderful. Okay, let's look at number 1. It says C is the measure of the hypotenuse. Find each missing measure, round to the nearest tenth. Okay, so here they want you to, when they say round to the nearest tenth, you're going to use your calculator, okay? Now, they gave you A. We're all dealing with A squared plus what? B squared equals what? Okay, I tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a regular sheet of paper so I have more room and can make it a little bigger. Okay? On number 1, they said what? A was equal to what? And B is equal to? And they want to know what C is. Thank you very much. All I'm going to do is put what in for A? What am I going to put in for A in this case? 8 squared plus equals. Mostly this is, just an equation you're not used to dealing with. And please think about what the squared means. Is 8 squared 16? That's not a 2. That means you're going to multiply 8 times itself 2 times. So 8 times 8 is? Plus 13 times 13 is? It's 169 is equal to C squared. That's what we have calculators for. These two added together is what? 233 is equal to C squared. Now, here's one thing to remember. This is why you get used and they teach in algebra to, bring the progression of your equation down and keep things the same. Right now, you don't know what C is equal to. What you've solved for is you found what C what? Squared is equal to. I want to know what C is. So how do I make a C squared into a C? I take the square root of it. Because didn't we just talk about that? Square root of C squared C? But what allows me to do that? Remember, with any equation, what do you have to do? You have to keep it balanced. So if I took, hold on. If I took the square root of the right side of the equation, what do I have to do? Take the square root of the whole what? Left side of the equation. And this is where the directions are going to come in, where they ask you to round to the nearest tenth, which is the first decimal place. So I will use my calculator here. And one thing to realize with calculators, some of you that have the calculator that I actually advise you to get, it'll actually simplify square roots for you. You'll have to change that. And if you bring it up here when we're done, I'll look at the settings. That's a really handy thing, but you want because they're asking for the tenth, you need to have it be a decimal. But if you have a phone, it may be easier to leave it like that and do that. But see, mine's not showing up, so I'm going to turn it sideways. And guys, if for some reason you've got any kind of smartphone, you don't like your calculator, I think I've got my rotation off. Well, it doesn't want to, does it? There we go. Okay. A lot of these, you notice how it has a parentheses right there? You're either going to have two types of calculators. You're going to have calculators like the iPhone one, where it wants you to put the number in, then press the button. This is going to have you put it in how you would write it. What you write, that's a pain in the butt. You write the square root sign first. So I'm going to say square root of 233 and then press equals. You can close that parentheses or that. Okay, we're going to round to the nearest tenth. Tenth is this 2 place, right? What's the number to the right of it? So that's going to round up to what? So our answer is 15.3. And I shouldn't put equal in all realism. You know what I should put? Nope, it's not congruent. That actually means approximately. Yeah, 2 squiggly lines actually means approximately. But that's not too bad, is it? Now, here's another thing I want you guys to remember to add to your notes. Get that page of notes back out. Put this off to the side. Really neat thing when dealing with square roots. First of all, square root of x times square root of y is going to be square root of x times y. You can combine them to the underneath the same square root. Okay, so everybody watch for right now, then you can write it down, okay? Square root of 3 times the square root of 3. What you can do, since they're both under the square root sign, you can just put them both under, so this becomes the square root of what times what? 3 times 3, which is the square root of what? What's the square root of 9? Square root of 4 times square root of 4. What would I get? Square root of?
16.
Is everybody with me so far? Everybody watching? I said don't write. Watch, because I'm trying to get you to see a pattern, okay? So square root of 4 times square root of 4, square root of 16. What is the square root of 16?
4.
Square root of 10 times square root of 10 is square root of?
100.
What is the square root of 100? Does anybody see a pattern there? Okay, let's try another one. Square root of 5 times square root of 5. What did I get? Square root of what?
25.
Which is?
5.
Square root of 7 times square root of 7 gives me square root of what?
49.
What's the answer? Do you see a pattern there? Look at it again. Square root of 8 times square root of 8 gives me square root of what?
64.
Which is? What's the square root of 64? Anytime you multiply the square root of x times the square root of x, you know what you're going to get as an answer? So anytime you multiply or you square, like square root of 5 squared, you know what that is? Our answer is always going to be? You see what I'm saying? So when you square a square root, you lose what? The square root sign, and you get just the numbers. That make sense? Why do you think I did that one? You guys see any problems on that worksheet that maybe I might have done that for? Let's do number 3. When I put this into Pythagorean's theorem, what would I get? Square root of 13, what would I do with it? Plus square root of 12, what would I do with it? Is equal to what? C squared? Everybody okay there?
Yeah.
Now watch. What is the square root of 13 squared? The answer is 13, isn't it? Plus, what's the square root of 12 squared? All of that's equal to? C squared. What is 13 plus 12? Am I done? I would hate for you to go through all this work and then forget that you're not asked, they didn't ask you to find C squared, they asked you to find? So what do I have to do is take the what? So C is equal to? That one came out nice and even, didn't it? Write that down. Now, I'm going to do these on the board tomorrow. How about all of you guys on your way out, will you put these, will you write your name on this? How about you guys all, and do it this time. I remember last time I asked you guys to do this, like 15 of you left them in your bags. On your way out today,